All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt
And Jake here.
coming to you talking about another Torah portion. And so this week we're at Jethro.
I think it is Jethro.
Or Jethro.
Jethro.
And it's Exodus 18:20 through 23. So Jethro. Who's this Jethro guy?
Let's figure it out.
And there we go. For some reason, things are not clicking.
All right. It will pick up later. There it is.
All right, so let's dive into Jethro.
Matt, who was Jethro?
Well, he was a concerned grandfather, worried about his children and his son-in-law. He was kind of watching from the distance, and I think he thought, that looking down upon his son-in-law was too consumed and wasn't spending enough time, I think, with his family. The text does not say that,
Right.
But we know how relationships work, and we know how we are as men. And is it possible Moses was a workaholic?
It seems he probably could have been.
Yeah.
There was definitely a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and it seems like it would be in his trait qualities. Leaders tend to have those tendencies. He was a leader, and he cared about the people. And yeah, he probably, it's like so many people in ministry that get caught up in doing that so much they neglect their own family. And I think maybe Jethro could see that. Moses couldn't see it. He's like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, I could see that.
So Jethro was a priest.
Right. We know that much from the text. But what kind of priest? So a lot of people would say that he was a pagan priest, and then he comes and talks to Moses. So what do you think?
Well, I think it's possible that we can assume that, because if you come from maybe a more a traditional Jewish perspective, you may look at this guy and go, hey, he's not a Levitical priest. Who is this guy?
Right.
He's not a real priest. But it probably depends on who you talk to. But he does just kind of appear out of nowhere, and we don't know his lineage. We know a little bit, but we just don't know. It doesn't say much about it. But he could have been like the Melchizedek order of priesthood.
Right. So. It is interesting that they both kind of show up in the same way. It's like they just kind of show up out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when later we'll get into it, but we'll start looking at where Jethro comes from, and it's not super clear.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we get some idea, but just like Melchizedek, he has no start or no beginning, and no end. So it's almost more reasonable to think that he would fall into that category.
Yeah,
because of this question you ask here: would Moses have listened to a pagan priest? And I think by this point in his walk, he's kind of beyond that.
Yeah, for sure. It's really hard to imagine that he would do that at this point after all the things he's done. I mean, he's led them out of the promised land. He's done some things here,
right?
And yeah, it'd be like going back and listening to the Pharaoh at this point, and I just don't see that happening. And then the backstory is in Jasher, and it refers to basically Jethro had this sword in the stone thing, and it was the staff, and it was the like Adam's staff that had been passed down, and somebody comes along, sticks it in the ground, and it had been buried for years, and Moses comes along one day, he's like, oh, you mean this thing? Boop! And picks it right up out of the ground, and like everybody in the world had come over there and tried to pull it out of the ground, and nobody could pull it out, and Moses just lifts it up, and they're like, oh. So I don't know. It's just interesting.
Well, I do know, being in Texas for a while now, that certain times of year you could go pull that stick out of the ground. Other times it's like concreted in.
Yeah, that's true.
You just pick the right time of year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Judges 4:11 through 12.
Heber the Kenite had separated from the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' father-in-law. Heber went as far away as the oak tree at Zaananim near Kadesh and set up his tent. So this is establishing the Kenite lineage here.
Yes, who are the Kenites? Yeah,
right.
Saying that he is a Kenite.
Right, and then Heber is this descendant of Jethro.
Yeah, so this is after the fact.
Right.
And then more after the fact of Judges 4:17. You may remember the story of the lady who drives the tent peg through the guy's skull. And so it says, meanwhile, Sisera fled on foot towards the tent of Jael, the wife of Eber the Kenite. Sisera did this because King Jabin of Hazor and Heber's family were on peaceful terms. And he rested peacefully after that, after the tent peg went through his skull.
After that nice warm milk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things we were trying to highlight here is that from the lineage of Jethro, you see these righteous actors that are following Yahweh's will.
Yeah, and working together. They're not working against them; they're helping them.
Right.
So, because there are other people that we see that come along that are connected to the family lineages that sometimes, or most of the time, are working against them, direct enemies. And there's a pretty good case these guys weren't enemies.
Right. So something had come along that line that was of righteousness, and so it's not a stretch to think that Jethro was part of that, bringing that righteousness through the lineage.
And another one is Judges 4:12 with Caleb.
Right. Save Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed Yahweh.
So,
and Caleb is from that lineage too,
yes,
right?
Yes, another descendant, maybe like great grandchild or something.
Yeah,
from Jethro. So another diagram that shows where he comes from. Caleb comes from Jephunneh. Didn't we just read about Jephunneh?
Yep.
So, and some scriptures that go along with it.
And then you have the first judge, Othniel. I mean, so it's a lineage that's following Yah.
And we took this off of the internet, and there's a mistake that says Jon. That's really supposed to be Joshua 14:6 up there at the top. So this is the priesthood model is really what we begin to see. So we're going to transition our story a little bit and talk more about the priesthood. And so what does 1 Peter 2:9 say?
However, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, people who belong to Elohim. You are chosen to tell about the excellent qualities of Elohim, who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So the royal priesthood, that's the Melchizedek priesthood.
So who is that? Who is this royal priesthood?
That's us.
That's us. That's right. And it wasn't new. So back in Exodus 20:19, you've got the fiery mountain. They're setting the boundaries, and they're saying, you can't touch this. You'll be shot. There's petroglyphs of the real Mount Sinai, Mount Jezreel. Was it Jezreel?
Jezreel.
Is that right? No, Abdul Allah's.
Yeah.
Abdul Allah's in Saudi Arabia. And there are pictographs of these people of arrows, and it shows that, hey, you're not supposed to cross this.
Yeah, don't cross this, or you'll get.
It's peligro. It's danger. It's death.
You run through.
And so, right here, Moses is about to go, and then the people are like, "Wait a minute, Moses, you're going to have to speak to us. We'll listen to you, but we can't listen to him. He is going to kill us."
Right. So then they said to Moses, you speak to us and we'll listen, but don't let Elohim speak to us or we'll die. So they're afraid to go near the mountain in order to accept this this task that Yahweh is going to bestow upon them.
Mm-hmm. And, the text doesn't say, but, you have to go, man, I feel like he had to be disappointed. He's just like, oh. Okay. Yeah, won't come up here. Got it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just like maybe your child who you want to go a certain direction or do a certain thing as they get older or something, and you've given them free will, or they're old enough to make up their own mind, and you want them to pick this thing, but they don't. So, and they're old enough to pick, and you just have to let them pick.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a meeting them where they are kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely, the Father accepts them for where they are in their faith, and they weren't ready, and he's like, okay, I clearly see this.
Yeah.
You showed me. Moving on, you get the 10 Commandments, and so he comes down to meet them where they are, and so they basically get the ketubah.
So explain the ketubah for people that may not know what ketubah
Well, the
is.
ketubah is like the wedding contract and the agreement. The priest had a copy, the family had a copy, and it was basically like the wedding agreement and contract that
It's
both
like,
parties are agreeing to, saying,
right.
yes, we're going to do this. And
It's like your vows,
mhm.
but it had more importance than we put on it today in our culture.
Mhm.
Today, it's like, well, they said it. You don't have to like sign a contract about saying those specific vows. That you're
Yeah, and
making.
back then it really was blending the two families together. I mean,
Right.
it was more than just this husband and wife. These two families are coming and acknowledging, we're tied together now.
Right.
We're bound. And so this wedding ceremony is occurring on the mountain, and the people at some point in the story, they do kind of repeat, and they go, yeah, we'll do everything.
Everything you've said we will do.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of, that's their vow, basically, the
Yeah.
vow that they're making. So what happens on the mountain? So what next week we'll find out, during the marriage ceremony, the bride is literally whoring herself on the mountain.
Yeah. And this kind of goes
Would that make a good movie?
Whored on the Mountain?
Whoring on the Mountain. Next week, find out for Sabbath Lounge and Whoring on the Mountain.
Yeah. So,
and you hear the banjos playing on the outro.
Yeah. Can I tell this story real quick? Okay. Now you know this story, but I just think it's hilarious. So we were at a Sabbath gathering, and one of my kids said, "Oh no! Someone said something about being lazy," and one of my kids said, "Laziness leads to whoring." And everyone was like, that's hilarious. Where they even come up with this stuff? And they're like, well, I know Jake's kids. They're probably right. It probably says that somewhere. And there was just this big confusion about where this even came from.
That's funny.
And in reality, what my child had said was hoarding. Like, if you've ever watched like Hoarders, it's like people that don't want to like clean up the mess,
right?
So now they've hoarded all this.
It wasn't whoring.
It was not whoring there, but that every time I think about that, it just makes me laugh.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's good. So anyway, it is a terrible story, and we'll read more about that next week. But this is Jethro, Exodus 18:20 through 23, and bottom line is, read it for yourself. Think for yourself. Don't take our word for it. Don't take anyone else's word for it. Take control of what you believe, and don't be the person that's like, oh, y'all, someone else just tell me what to think. No, that's not what Yahuwah says, to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling.
Right. Yeah, no one else can do it for you.
But we appreciate you. Any other final thoughts?
I did. If you go back to a couple slides.
Easier said than done,
So
Jake.
let's give it a try. Okay. So let's see. So the 10 Commandments, right? He comes down and gives them the 10 Commandments. Go forward one. And this discussion about during the ceremony, the bride is cheating, and we'll get into that for the next one. But I hear a lot about, well, he gave them these commandments that they couldn't keep. And it wasn't about not being able to keep them. It was the whoring that's the problem. Mm-hmm. It's not the I can't do this. That wasn't the problem. Mm-hmm. So, and then, of course, we'll get into that in some other videos, and we have in past videos about, it starts to turn into, well, why Messiah and that kind of thing. So,
yeah, the whoring is a direct, I mean, you can't be more rebellious as a young bride than deciding to go after another man during the ceremony while it's happening. I mean, that's pretty rebellious.
Right.
Definitely shouldn't marry that one.
Right.
Run away. It's only going to get worse.
Right.
But thankfully, our Father is much more patient than we are.
Right.
Because we would have been like, nope, I'm not doing that. Sorry. But thankfully, he's very patient. So we do appreciate you stopping by and giving Sabbath Lounge some of your time. And we do appreciate if you could share this, if you can like this anywhere, any way you can.
Right.
Tell others about it.
Yep. Give us the 5-star thing that they always tell you to give.
Or 5 hearts or likes or thumbs up or whatever what the dopamine hit. Just do it.
Whatever the program wants.
Yes.
Give it.
Just do it. All right. Thank you. This is Matt and Jake.
Signing out.